Lee, a lot of people were excited to hear Donald Trump announce that Dan Bongino was going to be the new FBI deputy director. I don't think you or I were among those people. How are you tonight?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Jason?
I'm well, but I'm a little concerned. I think some of the appointments and people kind of shaping up here in the DOJ, I don't know, people who watch for a while and people who are sponsoring on patreon.com/Stranahan or any of the Crowdsource the Truth channels know that you and I have got some issues with Dan Bongino. What do you think his appointment as deputy director of the FBI is going to mean?
Well, I'll say, possibly it's dangerous. So let me explain that. Jason,
Yeah.
you still there? Okay.
Yep.
I'm trying to move my computer because it's on
Okay.
an odd angle, and
There we go.
you vanished.
Better.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. But anyway, I think it's very dangerous. Look, if Dan Bongino was like transportation secretary or like secretary, like that, I would, okay, whatever. I don't like him because he's a liar, but I wouldn't care. But number two man in the FBI. So let me explain part of why. Okay. Let's say, Jason, you went to work for some company, like a media company. Let's say you got hired by the let's say Daily Caller. Doesn't make any difference. That
Sure.
part's not relevant.
Yeah.
And let's say they're thinking of doing 3D stereo. They're thinking of doing stereoscopic 3D. And
Right
you
up my
weren't
alley.
hired for that. You weren't hired for that. But eventually people would figure out, they go, oh, wait, Jason's a 3D stereo guy. He should do that for a living. You know a lot about that, right?
I would think.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dan Bongino is working at the FBI. If the subject of Russiagate comes out, what will people say? Who's the expert on Russiagate at the FBI?
Well, they would probably say it's Kash Patel because he wrote that Devin
No.
Nunes memo.
Okay, let me ask you this way. How many books did Kash Patel write on Russiagate?
Oh, right. Dan Bongino is the expert, according to them, on Russiagate.
You see, he's written 2 books on the subject. And you see where I'm going with this? They wouldn't say Kash because he's not the expert. Kash would actually defer to Bongino in this case. Well, Dan here's the expert, that kind of thing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think you and I know that Dan Bongino, he's not an expert, and he deliberately sort of, there's a lot of things. Yeah, he's Spygate. Right. I forgot he wrote all these books.
Right. He wrote books, so he considers himself an expert. So it's equivalent to me of like Mike Cernovich. Mike
Right.
Cernovich is the expert on FC, right? But he's
Is
not.
he?
He's a liar.
Yeah.
But if Cernovich were at the FBI and the subject of Epstein came up, they probably
Right.
turned to, well, Mike here's the expert. So
Right.
Bongino is he. By the way, I think there's a reason, because my nefarious speculation is that he's doing this on purpose, right?
What do you mean?
He established himself as the expert so he could lie. Because I'm going to be blunt. Dan Bongino absolutely lied about Russiagate. He called Spygate. He absolutely lied. There's no doubt in my mind. None at all.
But
And
what do you mean?
look,
What did he say, and what was he lying about?
well, I'll zoom in on the Trump Tower meeting. I sent you some pages earlier. Do you have them? I sent you pages, and
Yeah, I have him.
okay. So bring a couple of those up and find the part where he says that his view of the Trump Tower meeting was a setup by Russia.
Hillary dealings with Russia. Trump campaign and Russia. Overwhelming evidence suggests it was an entrapment scheme designed to gather negative political opposition research on the Trump campaign, not a juicy political dirt swap.
Right. Now, what I'm saying is Natalia Veselnitskaya, and let me point out one thing. Natalia Veselnitskaya is currently not able to come into the country. She's banned from the U.S. Not banned, but she's under indictment in the U.S.
Sanctions. Oh,
Okay.
right.
And I consider Natalia a friend. I talked to her a few months ago. I consider Natalia a friend and a hero. She went into Trump Tower meeting and absolutely told the truth. I'll prove that over the course of this, but I want to point that out. So my friend is indicted by the U.S. and can't come into the country.
Now, hang on
Now,
a
if
second,
that,
Lee, because this is worth going over again, because it's a complicated story and you know a lot of details. I think even though you've told us about this before, but it's worth repeating. Because what was it that she told the truth about? Remind everybody what it is that Natalia Veselnitskaya was trying to get across in that meeting.
well, hang on. Before we get to that, because I want to see people to see, because some clown was up there saying, I've got a heart on for Browder, and it's a minor issue. Let me point out, it's not a minor issue. Bill Browder is not a minor issue.
Right.
And I'll explain why. And look, forget me for a second. Have you heard, for instance, of a guy named Vladimir Putin? Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, he mentions Bill Browder in his meeting with Trump. Exactly. How could he be a small issue?
Right. So here's what I'm saying. If at their first meeting between Trump and Putin, the first meeting,
the guy comes up.
Right. He's brought up by Putin. So here's what I'm saying. Even if you think it's a minor issue, if you think it's a obsession of mine, here's why. It matters to Putin.
Exactly.
And I understand why it matters to Putin. I'll explain that. But I'm saying, but the people who are saying, like, well, Lee's obsessed with that. No. Putin is obsessed with it. And he's right. There's a reason.
That's the thing. I don't like obsessed. I think it's rightly focused is the correct way to say that.
Right. But that's what I see people saying about me. But again, I'm using their terms just because, whatever. But if I'm obsessed, then Putin's really obsessed. In his first meeting, I'm serious. In his first meeting with, it'd be like, if I'm at Trump, what person do you think would come up with me very quickly? Who would I mention to Trump?
Putin.
Someone,
I would think.
Someone we both know.
Oh no, Andrei Telizhenko.
Right. So if I brought up Andrei Telizhenko, because I really would do it. You don't know when you're going to meet him again. I would really bring up, Mr. President, I really want you to know about Andrei Telizhenko. He wants to come and talk to you. Here's blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Would that mean being obsessed with Andrei?
No.
Right.
It's focused.
It's an important case. And so that's why when people are like, well, it's minor. Not to Putin. You may think it's minor. If for you, it may be minor because you don't understand it. But factually speaking, Vladimir Putin, in fact, brought up Browder at his first meeting with Trump in Helsinki, right? I mean, So again, that's why a lot of people go, well, it's conjecture.
No, it isn't.
What's conjecture here?
No, right. And also he didn't just bring it up, Lee. It was like on camera, on stage, during the press conference part with Trump so the world could hear it. It was not a small deal by any means.
He also had brought it up in the private meeting between him and Trump. He brought up then too. So very important issue. And if it's important for Putin, is it fair to say it's important for the Russian government?
Absolutely.
Right.
One other thing before we move off of Andrei, though, I don't know if you noticed this, but they always, I'm sure you did, but I'm just saying, they always refer to Andrei as, Giuliani's Ukrainian ally. And when you think about it, of all of the Trump allies who got, lawfare slammed, Giuliani kind of got it the worst because, maybe not even the biggest dollar amount, but in other words, $146 million to Giuliani is way worse than $450 million to Trump.
That's right. Yeah. Again, both things, Giuliani is not a guy. Look, the guy likes money. He's a guy who, like my former co-host on the radio, John Kiriakou, he saw Giuliani, and he wanted to talk to him about getting pardoned, right? So Johns wants to be pardoned. So he was told directly by one of John's associates, okay, he'll work the pardon case for you. I mean, lobby for it with Trump for like, I forget what, like $500,000 or something
I
like
thought he
that.
said a million, something like that.
Yeah, right. I don't have a lot of money.
Giuliani
So,
got up to go to the bathroom, and this guy made him some kind of offer.
which by the way, is the way Andy Warhol used to work.
Andy Warhol, the artist? What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, there's a good book about Andy Warhol written by his assistant. And
Huh.
when Andy Warhol wants to do a picture like of Liz Taylor or Mel Marcos,
Uh
right?
huh.
The way he get the sale, because don't forget, he charges to do those portraits. Because having a Warhol portrait of you is kind of a big deal.
Right.
So he said we do what's called, the assistant who's in charge of this would do what's called popping the question. So Andy Warhol would offer to go to Studio 54 with someone, let's say Imelda Marcos. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds fun. Uh, a nice night in town with Andy Warhol at a
Yeah, do a
disco.
couple lines at Studio 54. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the way they get him. And then at a certain point in the evening, Andy Warhol would get him to go to the bathroom. And that's when Bob knew, his assistant, it was time to pop the question. And so when Warhol gets up, because he doesn't want to be there well, with the sales going on, right? So then the assistant is sitting there at the booth with Imelda Marcos, and he would say, you know, Mr. Warhol would very much like to do a portrait of you. He thinks you're a fascinating person. He would very much like to do a portrait of you. And he will do it for only $500,000,
2 million or
whatever.
whatever. Yeah.
So it's the same move. It's popping the question.
Well, except painting a portrait of somebody is not illegal. You know, Lee, just a little non sequitur. I don't know if you know this, but Andy Warhol was involved in the creation of a 3D movie called Flesh for Frankenstein. And this dude, Paul Morrissey, directed it. And I met with him to discuss restoring the film in 3D. And I showed him a bunch of different 3D stuff that I had shot. He was a little bit out of his mind and didn't want to do it. But then years later, they did actually do it, restore the film.
Interesting. So I was just saying that get him and go to the bathroom thing, that's
the move.
A technique. That's a move, right? So back in the Russiagate thing, Bongino, here's what I'm saying. If he were in Department of Transportation, whatever.
Right.
He might get asked.
Hang out with Pete Buttigieg.
But however, there's people like Natalia. Do you think
he's going to block her?
Do you think Natalia Veselnitskaya is ever going to get justice with Dan Bongino at the FBI?
No.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well,
and
I'm pretty worried about this, Lee, because Dan Bongino, you know, I don't know if you know this, in addition to all the Russiagate stuff, he used Stephen Biss as his attorney. So he is a lawfare practitioner himself.
Yeah, well, so the issue with Russiagate here is that we're at a crucial time for the U.S.-Russia relationship, right? And I said in a piece today, Dan Bongino hates Russia. You can see that in his stuff. If you're looking for it, you'll see it all over. He hates Russia the way Peter Strzok did. Remember when Peter Strzok sent a message? I hate the Russians.
It's almost like crazy. It's an obsession with them, huh?
It is. And that's why because look, I don't really watch him. But a few years ago, someone saw the stuff I was doing and said, you should talk to Dan Bongino. Okay. And I said, okay, fine. So I saw some stuff. I got both of his books. I have them both on Kindle. By the way, you know why I do that? Aside from my eyes.
Why? AI
you can search. You can search.
Oh, yeah, right. No, exactly.
It's a big deal because it doesn't just search to the index. Like if you had a paper book, you could look at the index.
Right.
But I was able to, and some if you look at both Bongino's books on Russiagate and search for the name Strobe Talbot, do a search for it. Like no references,
but
not
but
one.
I don't have the book.
But I do. I'm saying I've been able to do that on Kindle. That's why I'm
Yeah,
sending those pages.
and
I'm
they don't
saying,
have anything, I'm sure.
but people can try it. It's not like it saves me a lot of time because I'm not like, okay, there's 4 references. Let me read them and see if it's accurate. He doesn't mention not one
Right.
time.
Exactly.
I mean, and again, he's supposed to be the authority on Russiagate. So a friend of mine said, "But you should see what he's doing." And so I saw it, and I politely, believe it or not, I can do that. I politely said to him, "I got to let you know about this other material." At the time, I was working for Sputnik, and his response was to immediately say, "Well, you work for Russia," and block me
Right.
immediately. And then his criticism of me, anyone can look it up. Type in my name and Bongino's screen name, and you see a million things where he's attacking me. And his chief complaint against me is never a fact that I got wrong. It's he quotes something I said when I got hired by Sputnik. Okay, I knew what was going to come, right? And so I wanted to get out of the way. So I said I'm on a Russian payroll. I didn't want to pussyfoot around. So I called a reporter I do. She wrote a story on me. I gave her the quote. I said, I'm on the Russian payroll now. Why did I do that? So no one to think I'm hiding anything. You see?
Right.
So I got that quote from me on the record because I wanted to make it clear I wasn't hiding it from him. If someone said, well, because like if you, I know the way it goes. If a reporter asks me, so you're the you work for Sputnik, right? And I said, well, like ask me if I work for Russia.
Lee, do you work for Russia?
Here's what a lot of people would do. They would say, well, I work for Sputnik, but they have absolutely no say in what I talk about. Now, see what I did there? I gave an answer that's politically safe, but I did not say, what was your question? Do you work for Russia?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a good reporter will say, you didn't answer the question. So I want to get it on the record. I work for Russia because I was, and I don't feel bad about that. Don't feel guilty or ashamed of it.
And you shouldn't. It's not like we were at war with them until they started this whole, until Joe Biden started this whole mess in Ukraine.
Wait. Back up, because you're wrong, Jason. Not Joe Biden. Who started it?
You're right. Well, before Joe Biden.
Bill Browder.
Browder.
Fucking Browder started the whole anti-Russia thing. So that's why the person was saying, well, Bill Browder's not important. This is why Bill Browder's important. He actually started the whole Russia thing. And so if you read Bongino's books, he tells the story of Browder from Browder's perspective. A lot of lies and stuff like that. He wants to blame Russia, according to Bill Browder.
Well, he's basically brainwashed by it. Dan Bongino is brainwashed by this Bill Browder social engineering.
Or he's intentionally doing it. See, here's the thing. Even brainwashed people can sometimes, let me just ask you this way. Why are you assuming he doesn't know exactly what he's doing? And here's why
when I say brainwashed, I mean, you corrected me rightly by saying that Bill Browder started this. Joe Biden didn't start the anti-Russia campaign. I was just blaming him more directly for the kinetic action that began in 2022. Marks the third year of it happening too.
So why does Putin care about Browder? Why? Because Browder really started the whole anti-Russian narrative. I mean, he's a spokesman for the anti-Russian narrative, Browder is, and also the Magnitsky Act, a pack of lies that I think should be, I think I said on a show, I want to see that repealed. We should do it. But with Browder on the record being in favor of the Magnitsky Act, you see what I'm saying? I think he's going to stop that from happening.
Well, Fox News for a long time, which Dan Bongino used to work for, was just
Right.
way too pro. Even now, they just last week had Browder on there talking to Maria Bartiromo. So, I mean, when I say brainwashed, either Dan Bongino had some personal interaction with Bill Browder on Fox or got money from him, or they told him he's a good guy, or whatever it is that he believes
Well,
is the same kind of
let,
nonsense
let me
that
tell
Bill
you what,
Browder wants everybody to believe.
let me tell you what I know that I know because people told it to me. When I was first listening to Browder, I was at lunch with a reporter I knew, a woman who worked for a major conservative site. I won't say who, but I was saying I really think this guy Browder is at the center of this whole Russia thing because that's what I was starting to see. And she said, "I'm going to try to do an impression and not be too punchy." She said, "Oh, I know Bill." We're at lunch. She said, "Oh, I know Bill." She didn't say, "I know Mr. Browder. I know Bill." She said, "He's a great guy."
Wow.
So and anyone can look this up. And the reason he's a great guy is because he knows how to work people. You see? So I know that for a fact. And there's a good article Browder wrote years ago about how to make money from a company. And he said, if you buy stock, the like if you think about it, if you buy stock in a company, what's the best way you could raise or lower the profit mark, the share price? What's the easiest way to do that? Is it making the product better? Is it innovating? Is it
I,
having a good reputation?
I don't
What Bill
know.
Browder said was, what's that?
I just don't know.
So Bill gave the answer, and I'll give it to everyone here. If you want to make money on stock, it's publicity, right? So let's
Yeah, that
say
makes sense.
let's say you're a graphics card company, okay, and
NVIDIA.
a competitor to them, let's say, and you
Okay.
want to take advantage of the NVIDIA situation. It's Jace Video, whatever. Uh, if you can start a rumor that the reason NVIDIA cards are bad is because they're made with the piss of Chinese people, so no, I'm serious. Not about that example, but you see what I'm saying? Browder
Yeah.
said in this interview, the best way to raise or lower the price of a company is
Right.
publicity.
Yeah.
And because of that, you have to have a lot of people in your Rolodex, right?
Right.
Like, let's say you want to kill NVIDIA's stock price. You have to know who to call. So you have to be friends with people at Wired or some gaming magazine and so
Right.
on. You see,
Right.
so
Right. Start a campaign or something like that.
and the campaign often consists. I used to work marketing, so you know this. The most powerful thing you can do is call your friend who works at the gaming company, a gaming magazine, and say, "I got some scoop for you. I got some
Right.
info for you." And especially if you wanted to get everywhere, you tell them,
Yeah.
"No, no,
News.
don't tell anyone.
Right.
Keep it
It's
quiet."
not advertising. It's news and it's a secret and it's leaked.
I saw a great interview with Christopher Walken, the actor, recently.
He's great.
He was talking about Christopher Walken. Every film he does, he tells it's his birthday. So he's in like the makeup chair or something,
Uh-huh.
and he acts sad. He really does this. And when the person goes, "Are you okay, Chris?" He goes, "Well, it's my birthday, and I'm just feeling a little lonely." And then he said, "But the key is you have to tell people what, but don't tell anyone." So if you say you're Christopher Walken, you say it's my birthday. I feel a little sad. Don't tell anyone. And the next move is at he was asked, "Where's it go from there?" And what I said was, "Well, there's cake." Yeah. So by lunchtime, but right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's genius.
Yeah.
And
He's funny.
it's on my time on some way down, but I thought it was great. And Browder knows how to work a system, so he's very friendly with people on the left and the right. Why? Because he's a lifelong Democrat. This is why Fox News, Maria Bartiromo,
Oh, right.
likes it,
Right.
and she talked about that. And so I'm sure
Does
Dan
Bongino
Bongino's
have
on
them
there.
on?
I don't know that, but what I know is how Browder works, and I know what Bongino said.
Yeah,
And
but
I
no, wait a
believe
minute. Lee, here's the question. How come this is on X now? It says Sir William Browder, KCMG. What the hell is that?
he was knighted in England.
What? Why?
The Magnitsky Act. The Magnitsky Act is
Wow.
the single biggest worldwide hoax I've ever seen. I'm serious about it. It's a total fabrication, total lie. Well, every bit of the story. There's obvious things that don't make any sense. Like if
Well, listen, let me
you
just stop you there for a second because we're going to go into detail now. People are going to be able to join us on the sponsor exclusive segment. If you're not already sponsoring Lee, check him out on patreon.com/Stranahan. And of course, everybody who is sponsoring on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. You can still use your regular credit card until the end of February. Crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be right back, Lee, and then we'll go into detail on the Magnitsky Act, more about Browder, and more of your thoughts on Dan Bongino. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay with us.